All right, folks. So today, in fact, we are actually going to go through 2009 paper, specifically looking at Unit 2, Paper 2, question number 1. Now, question number 1 actually is, in fact, Section E, right, which is the map reading question, all right? We are going to view that right now. Now, just bear in mind for me, with respect to the maps, right, I will actually, well, everybody has my email address, right, on the channel. You can simply email me if you wish to actually get access to the high resolution scan maps for 2009 paper, and of course any other videos we are doing in future. All right, so feel free to let me know. Okay, now let us begin with section E. Now section E basically focuses upon we have a synoptic chart or a weather map, and we also have the map, which is the actual large map of the country that we have to focus on right after. Let's go through quickly. Now study the synoptic chart or weather map in figure 1 and answer the following questions in the answer booklet provided. Now, let us look at the first question. I know we have to look at the map first, right? But let us look at the first question, which is 1A, part 1. They ask us here to identify the weather systems labeled P, Q, and R for 3 marks. All right, now students, I want you to take approximately 1 minute, all right? Pause the video if you have to. I want you to look at the synoptic symbols, all right? I want you to pay attention here to the pressure, the isobars, which indicate pressure. The distance will also indicate the pressure gradient and stuff like that. We also want to look at temperature, cloud cover, wind speed, wind direction. All right, I want you to look also in terms of what patterns and what don't exist. Now we are automatically seeing here P, we are seeing Q, and we are also seeing R. All right, and we also seeing X and Y as well. So students, all these things, aspects of weather that you must consider, as we would have gone through in the classroom, those of you in my class, we would have gone through, we would have indicated that there are in fact several parameters which kind of conceptualize weather. We have temperature, we have wind speed, we have wind direction, we have atmospheric pressure, we have pressure gradient, all right, we have cloud cover, we have cloud type. You understand? And these are just a few. Okay, so keep that in mind for me, please. All right. Now, it is important, before you begin this, you have to learn your synoptic symbols. All right, you have to learn them by heart. All right, let's go through quickly. So take approximately 1 minute and look at this particular synoptic symbol. I'm going to zoom in now into a synoptic map, right? I'm going to zoom in now to the specifics. Now, we have to look at P, Q, and R. Sorry, R is here. Let's begin with the first one. Look at P. Now, P, we can automatically say a symbol here. This symbol, which is in fact open, which is not shaded, is actually not a hurricane. All right. R is a hurricane because R is shaded and is solid. There's a solid dark color in that little eye there. All right. This symbol is representative of an eye. And once it has a very dark coloration or shaded within it, it is said to be a hurricane. But that is not the case with P. P is in fact, well, a lesser extent. It is in fact less in terms of its potential power and what in comparison to a hurricane. P is actually referred to as a tropical storm. All right. Let us go to Q first. Before we jump ahead to R, let us go to Q. Now, Q is in fact that low-lying region there, right, is a narrow band which technically exists between, say, 0 degrees and 10 degrees north latitude and is actually moving northwards. Now, so far from this synoptic map, we can see, we know for sure we are talking about low atmospheric pressure because hurricanes and even tropical storms and whatnot, they are typical of low pressure systems. All right, we already mentioned that R is a hurricane, all right, because of the eye being covered, being a solid black. All right, we already mentioned P is in fact a tropical storm. All right, now Q is a narrow band, all right, which exists in that low-lying region there. Now, students, before we even understand this in class, we would have gone through, you would have gone through this in form 5, even form 4, and even form 6. All right, so this is unit 1 unit 2 work in geography, but we still have to go back to the basics. Now, in terms of weather systems, there are multiple weather systems that you may have studied in the past. You may have studied trade winds. You may have studied tropical waves. hurricanes, ITCZ. You may have studied cold fronts. All right, you understand? And these are in fact examples that you must take into consideration because let's do this quickly. Q now, which is a narrow band here, is in close proximity or in close relation to the regional area, as you can see, which is typically associated with low atmospheric pressure. Q is what we call the ITCZ or the Intertropical Convergence Zone. All right, because ITCZ or the Intertropical Convergence Zone simply marks the start of the wet season. And it brings with it a lot of low atmospheric pressure. All right, it is associated with low atmospheric pressure system. All right, and at the same time, it contributes to a lot of instability in the atmosphere. Look at the atmospheric pressure here along that range of Q. It ranges roughly, say a little less than 1,000 to an estimated, say, 1,004 millibars. Look at this line here. This line is 1,004 millibars. All right. Now, students, that is relatively low because average atmospheric pressure is 1,013 millibars. Anything below that is said to be lower than usual. All right. Keep that in mind for me, please. Now, part 2 describe the weather being experienced at either weather station X or weather station Y. Now, students, for the exam, you have to only utilize one. But for the purpose of simplicity, all right, and to ensure we understand, I'm going to go through both X and Y for you all. All right, so let's go through quickly. Now, we are seeing X here, and we are also seeing Y. All right, now, everybody, I want you to pay very, very close attention to this. At this point, I will expect you to pull out your synoptic symbol, your chart for your synoptic symbols that you were supposed to have learned. All right, and let's go through. Let's start with X. Now, students, I'm going to break it down. Before I give you a full answer, I'm going to break it down quickly, right? X, basically, we are seeing this little black ball here. This little black circle is actually connected to a long bar, and there are certain slashes at the end. This black ball is representative of cloud cover. All right, and we are seeing it as full. Now, cloud cover is measured in octaves. And so far, it is completely covered. That means we have 8 octaves cloud cover. What type of cloud cover are you talking about? This symbol at the bottom here, it actually resembles, and it looks like, I'm going to show you on the screen what it looks like in a couple of minutes. All right, I'm going to tell you what that symbol represents. Now, this map is a little bit fuzzy, all right, a little bit blurry, all right, but I'm going to give you the assumption. I'm going to go through this very quickly, as a matter of fact. This bar is representative of the direction of the winds, where it is coming from. And these slashes at the end of the bar is in fact associated with the wind speed. All right. We also have these little dots on the left-hand side of the ball, the black circle there, and those are in fact associated with rainfall. These lines that you see swirling all the way around, these are what you call isobars. Isobars are indicative of the atmospheric pressure which exists. We also have inside here a value which is like say 26. That is indicative also of the temperature. So let us go through quickly. Now, the weather condition as experienced at X is associated with full 8 octave cloud cover, all right, with moderate to intermittent rainfall, all right, and we must bear in mind that the wind speed is an estimated 25 knots. We have 2 long slashes and 1 short one. 10, 10, 5, right? 25 knots, all right, which is in fact approaching from the southeast. Okay, full stop. We can put a full stop if you wish. At the same time, we know for sure the temperature basically is estimated an average of 26 degrees Celsius. And we know for sure that the atmospheric pressure, all right, in that particular region roughly exists between 1,004 millibars and 1,006 millibars. All right, keep that in mind for me, please. Now, at the same time, let us look at the cloud cover here. I'm going to show you something quickly. Now, I want you to pay attention to this little symbol here. This little symbol I'm circling in red, all right, it is very vague to determine exactly if it is like this, ball on top, or if it is in fact like this. All right, it is kind of very difficult to distinguish that given the blurry nature of the diagram, right, of the synoptic chart. Now this one here that is written in blue with that little circular ball on top of it, that is actually associated with cumulus clouds All right, cumulus clouds, and that is with great ascent. With great ascent. That's already hard, you know. This one on this side, with the kind of anvil looking shape, the kind of flat top there, that is associated with cumulonimbus clouds. All right, cumulonimbus clouds. So it depends on if you have a real paper in front of you, and if it is very clear, it should be clear. All right, you can utilize that as a nice little guide. So keep that in mind for me, please. Now, let's go through with respect to Y. The same concept applies. Now, the actual weather which exists at Y is in fact associated with a 3-octa cloud coverage with an average temperature of, say, 27 degrees Celsius, accompanied by showers. All right, the symbol here, which is a kind of upside down triangle, that is showers, right? The wind direction roughly is, the winds, sorry, are in fact being emanated from the northeast, with an average speed of 10 knots. All right, an average speed of 10 knots. Now, class, you will be hearing me saying knots. K-N-O-T-S. Remember, all right, knots can also be converted into kilometers per hour. 1.85 kilometers per hour is equivalent to 1 knot. Keep that in mind for me, please. All right, so at the same time, going back into the question here, we should understand also the atmospheric pressure for Y, all right, roughly ranges between 1,016 millibars and 1,008 millibars. All right, you can average it if you wish, but I just decided to quote that to highlight the isobars and whatnot. All right, so keep that in mind for me, please. Now, for part 3, prepare a weather bulletin for the island of Hispaniola on the approaching weather system for 5 marks. Now, students, the island of Hispaniola is here. All right, that island Hispaniola is right here. I hope you all see my cursor. Now, we already mentioned R is a hurricane. That is Hurricane David. All right, it is in fact approaching Hispaniola. All right, so let us create a bulletin. All right, let's go through quickly. For the persons who reside in the island of Hispaniola, referred to both Haiti and Dominican Republic respectively, we must bear in mind that there is the approach of a full-blown hurricane, David, all right, towards the island of Hispaniola, all right, approaching from the southern end. This particular hurricane has a very distinctive low atmospheric pressure of 925 millibars, all right, and the pressure gradient is relatively steep. Given, well, the pressure gradient is relatively steep. We will talk about it afterwards. Just out to the point here, just remember the closer the isobars, the steeper the pressure gradient, which is more instability. Back to what I'm saying now. So the pressure gradient, the atmospheric pressure is in fact relatively low for this particular hurricane, with sustained gale force winds. If you look at this area here, we are seeing a triangle, a long slash, and a small slash. Triangle refers to what? 75. I'm sorry, 50, my bad. 50 plus 10 plus 10 plus 5. That is 75 knots. All right, with sustained winds, gale force winds of 75 knots. All right, approaching from the southern region roughly. There is the presence of cumulonimbus clouds, and of course, there's also showers in peripheral regions. Temperature averages to be an estimated 29 degrees Celsius. Persons who are in close proximity to the coast, all right, must simply vacate the environment or vacate the region, primarily because of the strong gale force winds having the capability of producing storm surges. All right, so citizens are advised to take precaution. Okay, now students, what I mentioned there, all right, just remember for wind direction we have a long bar, but for wind speed we are, if you look carefully, we see a triangle, one slash long, a next slash long, and a short slash. All right, so that's 50 plus 10 plus 10 plus 5. That is 75 knots. If you were to calculate, class, 75 knots, all right, 75 knots, when you multiply by 1.85, you would actually get wind speeds in excess of 138.75 kilometers per hour, which is in fact exceeding the 120 kilometers per hour hurricane threshold. All right, the demarcation for a hurricane. Okay, so we realize that there's a lot of gale force winds. Do not say gusty. We are talking about gale forced winds. Now, part 4 quickly, describe the changes in the atmospheric pressure along longitude 70 degrees west. Now, to answer this question, all right, we must bear in mind that if you were to look at 70 degrees west, we know for sure that is in fact a line of longitude, this vertical line going straight up. To start from the bottom up, we can see basically below 10 degrees north, we have the ITCZ, right, which is also associated with a relatively low atmospheric pressure. But basically, at 10 degrees north, the atmospheric pressure along that particular 70 degrees west longitude, all right, that point where both of them intersect, we can see for sure that the actual atmospheric pressure at that particular junction is said to be 1004 millibars. This progression, all right, is in fact transcending all the way up as you move forward or you move northwards. You can actually see that the atmospheric pressure diminishes. All right, it diminishes to a significantly low atmospheric pressure, which is typical of, in this case, we are seeing a hurricane of a low of 925 millibars. All right, the pressure gradient increases, right, as you move further northwards, generally from 10 degrees north to roughly within the 20 degrees north latitude. However, beyond the 20 degrees north latitude, we can actually see there is in fact a deviation or a change, all right, from 1004 to 1006, rising as you progress further north. We can also observe that along that specific line, which is 70 degrees west, we can see that the atmospheric pressure, the pressure gradient, sorry, also becomes less steep. The pressure gradient is in fact is a gentler pressure gradient, as a matter of fact, because the lines or the isobars are further away from each other in comparison to the area where Hurricane David existed. All right. To add a little substance, when we were in fact speaking about along this particular line, which is 70 degrees west, we realize that actually comes into contact with that specific line comes into contact with Dominican Republic, all right, which is in the belongs to Hispaniola, all right. We can see for sure that that particular area there experiences a significantly low atmospheric pressure. All right, you can actually cite the exact country where the line simply dissects. All right, it is up to you, basically. Now, this next question is in fact based upon the map. Select the map extract provided as an insert of Savannah Lamar, right, which is on a scale of 1 to 50,000, and answer question 1B and C in the answer booklet provided. Now, class, this particular question, we have B and C. Now, I'm going to show you the map right now. Okay, everybody, just to highlight very quickly, I just want to remember that if you don't have the map on a scan copy in front of you or a physical copy, a hard copy, you can simply request it from me. That's not a problem. I can actually email it to you. All right, feel free. You can send me an email and indicate exactly which map you are wishing to get. And I could actually send it in a form of an email for you so you could utilize this as a nice little template. Remember, for me, everybody, I want you to remember that before you execute any questions on the map, take for me approximately 2 minutes and look at the entirety of the map. This here is in fact the rough estimate or the rough outline of Savannah Lamar. We are seeing here, we are also seeing on the right hand side, we will see the key or the legend. All right. And we also see the different color codes. You are seeing different color codes on the map. You are seeing different areas where different road networks exist. You are seeing different areas where water bodies exist. Different types of cultivation, different types of settlement. All of these things will be given a symbol or a color code. All right. You have to look. And the reason why I'm saying this is because you have to zoom in. You can zoom in if you wish, and you can actually see how, in fact, some areas on these particular maps can be very clean. You have to just look for it basically along the map. All right, you have to peruse everything. Now, given the fact this is in fact an online technique we are using here right now, it is incumbent that you search to the entirety of the map. All right, and look at the different areas and look at the settlement patterns and whatnot. If you are in doubt, you have to simply go to the key or to the legend. Keep that in mind for me, please. All right. Now, that being said, I would really like you all to simply peruse the entirety of the map. All right. I want you all to simply look at the map to a large extent and look at every specific detail. Do not spend too long looking at it, but be as explicit as possible in terms of your description as well in the questions. Now, question B, part 1. We have to name and we have to locate. All right, name and locate 3 types of economic activities. All right, let's go through quickly. Now, remember, you can simply pause the video if you wish. All right, you can pause the video and get a chance to do it on your own. All right, this is in fact very important. You can't simply expect me to just go through all the videos. You have to be able to be the one to try it and peruse and look through for yourself without being given any form of aid. All right, so let's go through quickly. Now, based on the information from the key, right, we are seeing the different types of roads and whatnot. We are also seeing at the bottom here, you might even see abbreviations. All right, CEM is for cemetery, CH is for church, all the way down, and you have a wide array of different type of abbreviations associated with this region here. HOSP is hospital, you understand, stuff like that. All right, so I want to utilize this as a nice little template. Now, they said any type of economic activity, all right, and we know for sure, I'm seeing here, FCTY, right, look at what my quiz says, FCTY. And that area is indicative of the fact that there is, in fact, some level of manufacturing taking place. Because if you go down to the actual abbreviations, all right, FCTY stands for factory. All right, now we have to name and locate. So let's go through this very quickly. All right, so moving back into the immediate question, we are seeing factories, which falls within the criteria of secondary economic activities, right, or industrial activities. And you can see this at Savannah Lamar, right? We can see that at Savannah Lamar in and the peripheral regions as well. Also, in an area which is very close to Wakefield, we are seeing factories here as well. We are actually seeing 3 in close proximity. All right. Now, if you were to conceptualize Savannah Lamar, you can just simply say the on the roughly on the western part of the island. Sorry, of the map. Okay. Now, if you were to use this as the same example, we are seeing PS here as well. PS right at the built-up area at Savannah Lamar. We are also seeing PS. PS stands for. Let's go to the key and see. All right. Let's go to the abbreviation and see what it is about. What PS simply stands for. It stands for police station. Now, class, a police station is in fact associated with the protective services, and that fall within the criteria of tertiary economic activities in terms of service provision. All right, and that is found also at Savannah Lamar. All right, so keep that for me, please. Now, within the same region, apart from actually having symbols or abbreviations, we can also look at different color codes. And we see this little region here near Wakefield in the same peripheral area. That's using the same example as a matter of fact. We are seeing a kind of yellowish color. Now, if you go to the key, that yellow color, all right, is in fact associated with sugarcane plantation. All right, look at this right here, sugarcane plantation. So sugarcane plantation can be found in areas like Blue Castle, which is on the western fringe of the map, as well as Cornwall, and even further down to Wakefield, where the factories exist. Now, sugarcane cultivation or sugarcane production is in fact associated with that's an agricultural mechanism which is in fact associated with a primary economic activity on a very commercial or a very large area as well. So keep that in mind for me, please. Now, the second part, speaking of sugarcane, the second part of the question simply asks us to state 5 factors which account for the distribution of sugarcane production in the area west of Easting 20. Be very careful with that. Huh? Let's go through quickly. Now, folks, this is a general overview of the map here. All right, from this point, come all the way down. This is 20 Eastings. All right, and they ask you for west of Easting 20. So this whole region here, which is on the left-hand side of Easting 20. Eastings are vertical lines, of course. All right, this Easting number 20 here is in fact coming all the way down. All right, let us view and see what we are in fact talking about. So Easting 20 is typically here. All right, you'll see that. It's come all the way down. Appears if you just remember what you can do, you can simply focus on the other part, which is from this region, basically moving down. All right, trying to cut off that area there. So from the graph, we are seeing this whole region I'm actually encapsulating here, coming all the way down. That is west of Easting 20. Now they ask us to talk about and indicate 5 factors which have actually contributed to the sugarcane plantation or sugarcane cultivation. There we can simply see that sugarcane, basically the areas where yellow exists, all right, it's not stated very quickly. We can simply see we are not seeing any major contours running through these areas, barely. All right, so we can roughly assume that sugarcane is in fact associated with relatively gentle topography or relatively gentle slopes. That's one. In and around that periphery of where the sugarcane plantation exists, we can also see that there are multiple or numerous interconnecting road networks, all right, from that whole region there. And those interconnected road networks provide some levels of accessibility. Now, you don't have to write all that. You can just simply say accessibility due to the interconnected road networks. Thirdly, we can talk about the fact that there are, in fact, settlements in relatively close proximity to the sugarcane production. If you look at it, you can see this region here, Orange Bay, and that is next to Campbellton. All right, next to Jerusalem. We also have some people along the linear parts of the roadways as well. So we know for sure the actual point is close proximity to settlement. That is in fact number 3. Number 4, we must bear in mind that we also have close proximity to watercourses. For example, right here, all right, we have a river which is flowing down. All right, this is what you call the Cave River. If you zoom in a bit, you will actually be able to see it. We also have the North Negril River. All right, we also have the South. Where is this thing? Yeah, we also have the South Negril River here and its tributary next to Springfield as well. All right, so class, we have proximity to watercourses. All right, if I were to give another example, you don't have to give the example. Let us see if you wish to know it for yourself. They just ask you to state. You can just simply state you are in close proximity to watercourses. Another example is here is the New Savannah River. All right, so there's a nice little example you can keep in mind, but you don't have to explain all of that. You just simply state it. All right, and last but not least, all right, these areas where you have sugarcane cultivation is in fact away. All right, it is in fact away from built-up areas or densely urban development. So what I'm trying to say is that densely urban development is lacking. All right, we can see here we don't have any much built-up areas. If you look at the key, the built-up area actually has a symbol. That symbol is this region here, this kind of pink color here, right? We are not seeing that in that particular region. Maybe, not maybe, definitely east of Easting 20 you will see it, but for Easting 20 on the western part, we are in fact not seeing any major built-up areas at all. All right, so this is in fact associated with the lack of densely urban development in the region west of Easting 20. All right. All right, so just to recap very quickly, the sugarcane cultivation, sugarcane production areas are in fact associated with what? Number 1, gentle to undulating land, gentle topography. There's 1, 2. We also have accessibility as it relates to road networks. 3, close proximity to water courses because you need to have water for cultivation, right? 4, you realize that we are in close proximity to settlements. 5, there are in fact no dense or built-up urban developmental areas. All right, they are somewhat said to be lacking, as a matter of fact. All right, so that's actually 5 major points which are associated with that. All right, first and foremost, we have to suggest 2 reasons. Part 3 here suggests 2 reasons for the development of the Negril area west of the Great Morass. All right, at this point, I expect you to simply take a couple minutes and look for the Great Morass. Pause the video if you have to. All right. All right, so if you have to scroll down, all right, we can see the Great Morass is written right here. Great Morass. All right. Let's zoom in a little bit. We can actually see west of that, we are seeing a Norman Manley Boulevard. We are seeing a youth center. All right. We are also seeing a Negril Airstrip. Right. Now the Great Morass is a whole region inside here. All right. You understand what I'm saying? We are seeing what you call H. If you look at the key, all right, if you go across in the key and we want to figure out what H is, all right, we simply have to do what? Scroll down and it will give you an understanding as to what H is referred to as. So I think I didn't went up. Sorry, I'll scroll up, my bad. Now H, according to it here, H is in fact referring to a hotel, all right, or hotels in this regard. Now going back into the page as well, that area where the Great Morass actually exists. All right, we have to indicate what are in fact 2 contributing factors for the development in the area west of the Great Morass. Now, first and foremost, we have to bear in mind that the Great Morass, all right, that region there, that whole area, all right, is said to be in a relatively sheltered environment. It is said to be in a natural harbor. All right, and what I'm saying is because these curvatures and whatnot, as you can see here, a bay is a sheltered region, and we've seen that these bays, all right, they're like, for example, Long Bay, it is relatively gentle, sheltered environment, so it's in fact a natural harbor which exists. And how do we know that? Look at this little color code on the strip here. This little color code, which is a kind of yellowish color. If you were to go on the key, all right, we want to figure out what that is. And that is not sugarcane, no, it's not. That is associated with sand and gravel. Look at right here. So let's go back into the actual image itself in that particular region where we're looking at. So what the Great Morass exists in the area west of it, it is said to be relatively sheltered. And we know for sure that if it is relatively sheltered, that you have a lot of deposition taking place. And that region there is said to be a natural harbor. Hence the reason why there are in fact the development of what? Hotels along the coastal fringes, all right, along the Norman Manley Boulevard or in close proximity to it. Okay, now apart from that, students, we have to bear in mind that region is in fact associated with a gentle topography, all right, gentle topography, which have actually been coupled with the fact that it's actually in close proximity to the coast. And one thing which is very important, the gentle topography have also been associated with the road networks, which will allow some level of accessibility towards the coastal fringes here. We are seeing no major contours indicative of the fact that the area is said to be steep or otherwise. It is in close proximity to the coast, and as a result, you have gentle slopes or gentle topography, which would have facilitated road construction and development, which by extension would have allowed infrastructural development to actually enter the particular region. Okay. Now, part C, we have to outline 3 areas of disparities in development between the following 2 areas. All right, between the following 2 areas. Now, class, look at this carefully. This is 15 marks. All right, we have to compare 1 and 2. We have the area west of Easting 15 and north of Northing 80. We also have the area west of Easting 15, same west, but south of Northing 80. You have to understand what is Northings and what are Northings and what are Eastings. Let us go to the map quickly. Now look at this carefully, right? Easting 15 is here. We are looking west of that whole region. All right. So I'm trying to actually focus mainly west of Easting 15. All right. Now, if you go down, and they are specifically referring to 2 areas along the western fringe of Easting 15. Now, these areas can either be right below, right, 80 degree below 80 degrees northing, all right, which encompasses from this region right here, right, going all the way down. Okay, and we are also comparing that same region north, all right, of Northing 80, all right, west of Eastings 15, which is all the way up. All right, so comparing north and south for the western parts of the island beyond Easting 15, I should say prior or before Easting 15. All right, so let us go through quickly. Now, class, let us pay very close attention to this now, right? This is where you have to zoom in. All right, you can take a pause, you can pause the question, you can pause the map and whatnot if you wish. All right, keep that in mind for me. Now, we're looking at the area, the developmental area. So we're going to ignore so far the water and stuff like that, right? Let us focus in the area where development actually exists. All right, and this is roughly here. Okay, if you were to see from the top, we can see there are, in fact, linear settlement patterns which exist in close proximity to the roadways. All right, they technically dominate this part of the island. All right, and let's go down. Let's see how far do we have to go down. Let's just use this as a nice little guide. Hang on 1 minute. All right, we are in fact going down to 80. All right, we are going down to 80. All right, so as you can see here, let's scroll across. All right, we are seeing linear settlement patterns dominating this area here. We are not going to go below 80. Yeah? Simply, we are going to maintain that level of 80, which is in fact above, north. All right. Now moving all the way back up, right, we can simply understand that the west of Eastings 15 is in fact associated with the dominance of linear settlement patterns, all right, which are in fact along the roadways, right, the A class as well as the different the secondary roads and stuff like that. But if you were to compare that area, right, which is actually south, right, that area which is actually south, which is this region here. All right, just give me a minute. Hold on. All right, so roughly here, this little X here is actually 15. This is 80. We're looking south of that. We are also seeing linear settlement patterns associated here as well. The only difference is that if you were to compare, all right, in terms of the amount of settlement which exists north of north of Northing 80, it is in fact much more pronounced, and there is in fact a larger area, right, that is associated with settlements that exist there as well. All right, so there are also linear settlement patterns which exist here, right? But at the same time, we must bear in mind that it is in fact less in terms of number and in terms of the geographic range and the spread to which these populations, in fact are so distributed well over a particular region. All right. Now, looking quickly into the other point here, let's look at the road networks. We can see that area west of Easting 15, which we are talking about throughout. If you're looking at north of Northing 80, we can actually see that the road networks, right, north of Northing 80 is actually this region here upwards. We can actually see that the road networks are in fact much more pronounced, right? And a greater amount of road networks exist in the northern fringes or north of Northing 80, which is technically along the western fringe of Easting 15. All right, but we must bear in mind also that the area further south of Northing 80 is basically associated with less road networks, primarily because of the fact that there is a smaller geographical size, all right, that is in fact established, infrastructurally established. So we must keep that in mind for me, please, because that's actually something really, really important as a matter of fact. Now, we can also see there are in fact Class A roads more, a greater concentration of Class A roads on the northern reaches of the map, which is west of Easting 15, but north of Northing 80. All right, but if you move further south, all right, which is in fact south of Southern 80, you realize you also have a combination. Well, you have less roads, that is one. But at the same time, you realize you are in relation to the actual ratio between the Class A and other roads, we can see that there is in fact a great amount of other roads in relation to that particular area as well, which is actually the southern region of Northing 80. All right, so keep that in mind for me, please. All right. Now, I mean, to highlight a very important point here, we must take into consideration that these road networks, right, they are much more pronounced and a greater concentration exists in the area north of Northing 80, primarily because of the fact that there are in fact a greater area which is associated with gentler topography, gentler slopes. Right, even though there are little fractions where very, very steep topography exists, but the gentler slopes are actually relatively larger in the northern reaches of Northing 80 in comparison to the southern part of Northing 80. You realize that there is in fact a lot more rugged terrain and steep-sided areas, all right, and less gentler topography. All right, so keep that in mind for me, please. Okay. Thirdly, let us go through this quickly. Thirdly, we must bear in mind that the population distribution is in fact a major factor here as well. But I want to focus more, right, in terms of the actual content that we have here so far. Look at the screen quickly. We are in fact seeing here in the northern fringes of Northing 80, right, we realize there's a greater concentration, right, of persons situated basically in the Negril area, right, in the Negril area, okay, which is north of Northing 80. But if you go further south, which is south of Northing 80, you realize that the concentration of persons, the distribution of people, is in fact much less. All right. So what I'm trying to say is that the population distribution, is in fact much more pronounced in the area north of Northing Itcz. As you can see in that whole area right there in along the Negril region. All right. And also in the clustered area, in the little distributed, well-distributed areas such as Campbellton. All right. But if we go to south of Northing Itcz, we can also see that there is in fact a lot less settlement patterns. All right. The distribution is in fact a lot less. And there's actually a reason for that, All right. If you were to realize and look at the vegetative cover and the topography, we realize that further north of Northing Itcz, we have more cultivated areas like sugarcane and stuff like that in the yellow regions there as well, right? But this little green patchy area where you're seeing fresh river and whatnot, you realize how steep the land is, so you have less distribution there. All right. On top of that, there's a great barrier or a great obstacle here, which is in fact the Great Morass, which occupies space as well. But at the same time, this also takes away from the settlement expansion because you can't really build on that specific area as yet. All right. But if you move further down or further south, you can simply see that on the peripheral or the coastal regions, all right, there are in fact settlement patterns there. But on top of that, we must also be reminded the settlement is influenced by also the topography. As we would have indicated, the topography in the southern reaches, which is south of Northing Itcz, all right, which is also west of Easting 15, we can see that southern reach, which is encapsulated in the little frame here on your screen, is also associated with steeper slopes and steeper topography. All right. This green here, what does it represent? We are seeing this green generally representing in these areas on these steep slopes. Let us see what it represents. Go on the scale. All right. If you were to scroll across to the scale, right, you will actually see that this is in fact associated with woodland forest or woodland vegetation. All right, woodland vegetation. All right, and they are typically associated with the steep-sided areas of the landmass itself. All right, especially in the region south of Northing Itcz. All right, whereas north of Northing Itcz, you realize the distribution is much more because you have a larger fraction of the land, which is associated with flat or gently undulating topography. All right. So the first point was talking about the settlement distribution, the settlement patterns. And the second point was also talking about the distribution. Sorry, the second point was talking about the road networks in relation to both areas. And the third point was in fact referring to the distribution of people as it relates to topography as well. All right. So I hope this was actually beneficial. If there are in fact any questions, feel free to let me know. All right. You'll keep good. You'll keep safe.